Today I thought we'd talk about potatoes. It's early May. The sun is actually out. It's about 60 degrees, a little bit warm. But as you know, Allie and I have grown potatoes for years. You can see behind me the 10 beds that I have here at my house. On an earlier video, we showed you planting Allie's just the other day. She's out of town again. You're stuck with me. So first of all, let's talk about a couple of different things. All of the bins we have here are filled with compost that we got from the local county. Now, the benefits of compost is it's generally nutrient rich, but the problem with compost is it's always degrading and it gets smaller and smaller over time. The other thing is if you go get fresh compost and it's still decomposing, it creates a lot of heat and will burn off the seeds you're trying to plant. This has been in the ground for years and we've had very good results. So, how many potatoes are we growing, you might ask? Well, I'll answer it this way. We purchased a 50-pound bag of Fedco seeds, as we said before, the caribou russets, and there's 20 seeds in each bin. There's 10 bins. That makes 200. Plus we have one bin over at Allie's house, which you saw us do the other day. We have the one Pontiac Red. So in all, we have 60 pounds of potatoes that we purchased as seeds, and we've got 220 individual potatoes planted in the ground. Buying seed potatoes, I will have to say, our success rate is almost 100%. So we should get something out of each of those plants. Some will be a little more, some will be a little less, some might grow a little bit bigger, some might be a little more medium, but that answers that question. If you'd really like to get some in-depth information on potatoes, I suggest you look up Tony O'Neill. His YouTube channel is Simplified Gardening. He goes in depth and he's as close to an expert as I can find. Now, years ago, we tilled our soil in the ground and planted potatoes, and our results were dismal. Then Tony suggested you could plant potatoes in buckets, and we did. We planted them in regular 5-gallon buckets. We had about 80 of these in the same compost that we get from our county. And our results were good, but not great. Maybe the buckets are a little too small. I can't answer that question. We did that for several years. We gave it a good try. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. So then, looking at Tony's latest videos, he plants 2 potatoes in one bigger container where we were doing 1 potato per container. And he shows fantastic results. And he said he got as much as 230 pounds of potatoes from, give or take, 200 square feet of garden. Well, these bins here, there's 10 of them, and they're approximately 20 feet long, not quite 10 feet wide, but give or take 200 square feet. And our first year, we had over 230 pounds of potatoes, and I thought that was fantastic. And our results have been comparable ever since. So what we do, as you've seen in our earlier videos, is we plant the potatoes clear down at the bottom, about 3 inches. These bins are almost 18 inches tall, so let's consider somewhere 14, 15 inches of soil on top of them, and believe me, they do push through, and we have done very well. Now, we only plant a couple varieties these days, the caribou russet being Allie's favorite, and we do, in essence, 10 bins of those. I have 1 bin of red Pontiac Red potatoes, and we're trying a couple different things this year. So the first thing we're doing is, on my left, your right, this row of potatoes are all grown in the ground, as we show in our videos, about 3 inches from the bottom, and we're going to let them come up. On my right, your left, we've decided to try raising the potatoes up to the recommended height from our seed supplier, Fedco Seeds. and they suggest 4 to 6 inches below the top and then mounding them. Now that's a little bit more work, so we're going to do kind of a test and see which one produces more potatoes. Now I'm figuring we're someplace 5 to 1. One potato planted, we get give or take 5 potatoes. Some big, some a little smaller. Fedco suggests we should be getting closer to 10 to 1, and in extreme conditions, 20 to 1. Now, I'd be happy with 10 to 1. I'm actually pretty happy with 5 to 1. But anyway, so we're going to do a little test. The second thing we've done is some of the seed potatoes we're planting are full potatoes. And we try to get them about the size of a golf ball, maybe an egg. This is one that we didn't use because we had some bigger ones. And you can see it's already starting to sprout a little bit. The other thing you can do is take a larger potato and you can cut it down. So in some of these beds, we have planted only full potatoes. And in some of these beds, we've only planted cut potatoes. Once again, we're going to try to compare side to side, planting in the ground, doing the hilling, and see which one gives us better results. Now, I'm going to give you a little of my experience. A year ago, I tried replanting potatoes that we had grown, and our results were disappointing to say the best. On some bins, we did pretty good. On some other ones, probably didn't get 50% of those potatoes to grow. So we have decided to go ahead again this year and purchase seed potatoes. Now, the one thing I do want to address is tilling versus turning your soil. So for years, we used a rototiller and we tilled that 20 by 40 part of the garden. And I will say our results were very good, except for our potatoes and to some cases our onions. And what I have learned over the last couple of years is when you rototill a garden, especially in the ground, what you're doing is tilling up the soil and you're basically beating it into submission. And if you have anything like worms in there, it's not going to be a happy place. But the other problem is as those tines come down at the bottom of the turn, it's kind of compressing that soil and making it almost as hard as concrete. So that's one reason we went to raised beds. Now, we still turn our soil, but we take a shovelful and basically turn it over. So yes, we're making a few worms unhappy, but we are not just pulverizing them at the same time. And also, as we've suggested in earlier videos, especially in the potato beds, we have found that over the season, when we go to harvest these potatoes, you would be surprised how heavy and how compacted this loose soil gets over the summer. You almost have to have a shovel to get to the bottom to get the potatoes. So once again, just a little tip. I'll kind of wrap it up there. We do grow a lot of potatoes. They're a wonderful crop. They're an easy crop. As you'll notice, these beds are not protected behind a fence. They've been out here for years. We have deer roaming this place. They've never, other than they'll take the flowers off occasionally, nip the tops off, but they've never disturbed the plants. We don't have anything else digging them out or things like that. The reason everything else is behind fencing is because everything else loves to get in there. So potatoes are something you can grow out in the open, and to my knowledge, there are no pests.